Hello and welcome back to Chengi's World. Today is Women Ask Wednesday. And I am back here today answering your questions. So I have a question here from one of my subbies on one of my videos. This is a Granny Wintergreen. And she left a question on my comment section. I thought, I think I want to do that one. So the question is as follows. Chengi, please can you do a video about how to get online dates to stop just texting and actually meet? They all seem so scared. She rolled her eyes up. Am I doing it right? Yeah, I think that was it. Well, I love this topic because interestingly, I had been talking to a girlfriend of mine. Before I go any further, welcome to Chengi's World. If you're new to my channel, I am Chengi and you, my precious one, are my world. Thank you so much for joining me. I totally welcome you into my world where it's all happening, into this amazing family. And for those of you who are coming back to my channel, thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you for sharing, liking, commenting, subscribing. Thank you for being a part of my world. If you're new to my channel, do not forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment, and let's get this party started. So I was talking to my friend and we were talking and we were saying how technology has really what technology has done is brought so much good. So much good has come from technology. I'm not one of these people who have issues with technology, and nowadays I hear a lot of people grumbling and moaning about technology. I'm not one of those. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I am not blind to the reality of what it does and what it has done in terms of our social dynamics and in the way that we interact with one another. And one of the things that social media, not social media because I think we put a lot of blame on social media, but technology has been able to facilitate. Obviously, social media was the advent of how people now do life. But technology as a whole, texting or online dating or social media or Facebook, whatever, created and facilitated a situation whereby whatever fears we had in our humanity that we had to grow through, walk through, confront and face, we could now be faceless. We could now be an entity behind a screen and therefore allow those fears and allow those character issues that we would have had to face before to fester and find a way through. So if I want to say something to you that I wouldn't have the guts to say in your face, I can just text that and word it in such a way that is passive aggressive or rude or sarcastic. I can afford to be a coward. I can afford to be self-centered and selfish. I can afford to be all of these things because I don't actually have to have that dynamic that only happens when we are face to face. Because when I'm face to face with you, I am face to face with your energy, right? Your energy, my energy, they're resonating. So the communication we're having here is on a more human, more empathetic, more loving level. Because when I have to stand in front of you, I will feel you. I feel your energy. I feel your life force. I feel the fact that if I am going to be dishonorable, it will hurt you because you are not a name online. You know, a lot of people will leave horrible comments, you know, on videos. And of course, I've developed thick skin. You can't be a YouTuber and not have thick skin. But they don't realize that they're actually speaking to a human being because what they're seeing is a brand, a name. What is Chengi's World anyway? It can't possibly be a human being with actual emotions. Okay. Now, the reality is and we get to choose our Instagram names and we get to, so now, because of that, we now lack, we now are more cowardly. I say that to say that it's the same thing, it's the same principle that is happening with online dating. Online dating has allowed those really vile, lower natures in us to really come to the fore and find legitimate foreground. So I can just text you all day and not feel any kind of way because if I was with you face to face. Now, like I was saying to my friend, when I was growing up, when you had to dial the phone with those ringer thingies, and I grew up in Zimbabwe, so whatever it was in the West, we were like a few decades behind. So I didn't know anything about mobile phone until I was 20, I think. Yeah, I'm giving away my age. But when I came, when I came to the West is when I started seeing mobile phones. They were like big bricks, right? And only certain people had them. And so it's in that day you actually had to you dated people that were in your street, in your life, in your physicality. You asked for, you couldn't mess around and just talk to a girl and not ask it. The fact that people had to live together and go to the same pubs and be in the same community and then date from that platform rather than dating somebody who lives in one other city and somebody else who lives in another city. They had to sort of make do on that platform. So what we're facing now, especially if you're of my sort of generation and before, you are having to face such a shift in culture, and it can be emotionally distressing and it can be frustrating, and that's really what's going on here. So I'm going to run through some of the reasons or some of the mindsets that the man has in his head so you understand why what I'm going to say to you to do about it is going to be helpful. So they do it, yes, out of fear. Fear is not so much online, like I said before, because it is an entity. So the online platform reduces that sense of fear and anxiety. It's still there, but I would bet that it's not the primary reason a man would continue to have back and forth with you online and not actually make a date. Because at the end of the day, rejection is very different online. Okay, so yes, he could be afraid. Yes, he could be a coward. But I would say yes, it's one of the factors. I'll put it in number one. But number two, it's usually because it's convenient. You see, if you're a lonely single guy and your girlfriend's out of town, or you and your wife are not getting on, you and your girlfriend are not getting on, or you're getting on and you just want to, do something exciting and see what else is out there, you can just go on Tinder, swipe, find some pretty chick and talk to her. And so usually, sometimes it's because these men are in relationships. Yeah. They're in relationships. They're using dating sites as a social outlet. They are men who, so that might be very much a possibility that he is in a relationship or that he is juggling other women. So if he's talking to you and 20 others, then he hasn't decided who he wants to take out on a date yet. So he's going to keep everybody on a loop until maybe the one or two or three that he really wants to go out with kind of blow him off, and then he will then revert back to you. Okay. You have to understand that for men online, a lot of it is the numbers game. A lot of men on dating apps are literally swiping to the yes. I don't know if it's left or right anymore. To the yes section, and then they deal with the women that respond, and then from there they whittle it down. So it's usually a numbers game, sometimes online. So I will tell you what to do about it. Okay, so there's that. So he's either lonely or bored at home and he wants to keep himself busy, so it's convenient. He doesn't have to go out, doesn't have to buy you a drink. Or there's something fraudulent about him. So maybe he is not who he says he is. Maybe he is some pervert. Or he put pictures of himself 50 years ago and he just likes the idea of bantering with a younger mind, or somebody who's older, or is a young guy maybe who's too young, liking the idea of flirting with somebody older. So sometimes you're not talking to who you think you're talking to. So that's why they would rather prolong the chat online, because they have no intention of seeing you, because then if you see them, you realize actually the picture they put was not even probably of themselves. Because nowadays you can just pull a picture offline, off anywhere, upload it and say it's you. So there could be something fraudulent about that situation. Or this person just wants to enjoy a fantasy. Fantasies are so possible, especially on dating sites. And I always say that if you're going to go on a dating site, the number one ones to go to are the ones where you pay. Okay, a subscription. Because people are not likely to pay for it. People will do it. Some people will do it. But they're less likely to pay for a subscription for something just to play with a fantasy when there are all these other apps that are free. Hello. Okay, so go for something that is paid, because you're less likely to get somebody wasted time. The other thing is money. A guy might want to ask you out, but maybe in the middle of the month, maybe when he's a little bit broke, all he can do at that point is prolong the conversation, because maybe at that point he doesn't have the money to take you out. You have to realize that men have a dating budget in their heads. You might not be the girl who is prepared to go halves or pay the bill. I'm not that girl, mind. I don't do halves. Okay, but that's another that's another video. In a relationship, I'm very happy to pull out my credit card, but if you're dating me and you want to talk to me, then you lost the party. That's just how it is. Okay, for me, and that's how I recommend that it should be. So, but that's another video. The point is, if he is a masculine male who wants to truly impress you, he might be in a position at that time when he's talking to you where he can't afford it until he gets the money in. So he might just be creating that that lengthy conversation because he's just afraid that, or, to maybe he doesn't have the money. So what do you do? What do you do is what you want to know, okay? What you do is, in your conversation, sometimes if it's shyness, if it's fear, but you sense that he's really interested, but he's a little bit shy or a little bit afraid, then what you would do, I always used to get going from dot with putting in his head that I'm interested in meeting. So I would have a conversation to the following. He would say to me, so what's your favorite, for instance, what's your favorite thing to do on a weekend? Or what's your favorite thing to do when you go abroad or something? It would be some sort of really nothing question. And I would say to him, maybe I'll tell you that when I meet you. If we ever get to, maybe I'll tell you that when we have our first date, So I'm letting him know that A, I'm interested in having a date with you. B, this has to be leading to something that is going to result in us seeing each other. So I am letting him know subliminally that actually I'm interested in a date. I'm interested in meeting you. So this information you will only get when we're face to face. And I will do that for a few questions, not all the questions. But again, if you feel at that point that, because what is important is for him to not feel like he can get all the information, to create a sense of mystery. We all want a bit of mystery, especially men. They want to feel like they're chasing something. They want to feel like you're a mystery, something they have to solve. Their questions are not quite being answered, but you don't want to come across shady. So answer some questions. So how many children do you have? 1. Oh, I've got 2. But if it's a question that can wait, something that's just to do with your interests or something to do with something that gives him insight into you, then you can say, well, I'm just going to wait until you ask me on a date for that one. Okay, so you can do that and do it very, very quickly, maybe in the second text or so. And you can instigate it by asking a question like, if you could be anywhere in the world right now with anybody, who would you be with, and where would you be? And then he's likely to reciprocate and say, well, how about you? Would give you an answer and say, how about you? Where would you go? And at that point, you're like, well, I'm going to keep that a mystery until you take me out for a drink, or we have dinner, or we go for a coffee. Okay, so what you're doing is leaving him hanging and letting him know that you want to go on a date. So that's really handy. The second thing is to, let's see what I've got here. So it's the same thing. I'd put 2 points, but the same things that I've just shared: mystery and leaving unanswered questions. Okay, to get that. That's really very powerful tool. It helps. Okay, the second one, I think I've done a video on this. Again, it is, I always used to say, ask him directly. Okay, when you feel like you must have a threshold for how many comms you're going to have back and forth. When you feel the comms have gone back and forth for a certain amount of time, I would say do not let 3 texting back and forths happen before he asks you out on a date. So maybe the first time we can just have a bit of a text. The next day we'll have a bit of a text. By the 3rd day, and when I'm saying a bit of a text, I'm not talking about long-winded texting. I'm talking about just touching base, sweet messages. By the 3rd section of testing, I would say, so what does a girl have to do around here to get a date? Usually the guys find it so funny. I think every guy ever asked that question sort of did ha 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 ha. So when are you free on Thursday? Because what it lets them know is, I'm interested, okay? I'm interested. Ask me out on a date because I'm just going to call you out on this, okay? And I always got a date from doing that, because you know, for them, it was like, oh, she's asked, but I haven't asked. I've asked you to ask me because I'm letting you know that I'm ready. Okay. Now, if you're a bit more gutsy, you can just say, so I'm still waiting for you to ask me for a date. Now, if he is on any of the other reasons that I gave you, it's a fantasy, he's going to ghost you. He's going to stop texting you and he's going to disappear. Now, I like to figure that out as soon as possible. So that's why I start as soon as possible. Okay. So he will probably ghost you or stop texting or disappear if it's any of the other reasons. If it's a money thing, he will set a date for when he's got money. So he might say, you know, I'm away for 2 weeks. Can we meet up when I come back? Kind of thing, you know, or I'm busy for the next 2 weeks, but we meet up when I come back. So those are the two most powerful tools that I've used that I know will definitely work for you. So give it a go and let me know. Take care. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon on my next video. Bye-bye now. Mwah.